Hello, and welcome to the Producers Guild conversation with the creative team behind United States versus Billie Holiday. We'd like to thank our friends at Hulu and Ginsberg Libby PR for making this event possible. It is my pleasure to introduce our moderator today, Bruce Cohen. p.g.a. member Bruce Cohen is an Academy Award-winning and Emmy and Tony-nominated producer of film, television, and theater. He won an Academy Award for Best Picture for American Beauty and earned additional Best Picture nominations for Milk and Silver Linings Playbook. He was Emmy nominated for producing the 83rd Annual Academy Awards and is currently nominated for 2 Tony Awards for Best Play for co-producing Slave Play and The Inheritance. Wow. Welcome, Bruce. Welcome, panelists. And please, Bruce, take it away.
Thank you, Kyle, and welcome everyone to the p.g.a. Q&A for this truly extraordinary movie, The United States versus Billie Holiday. I'm so honored and excited to be here talking to 3 of the creators about this film that is so stunning and so, I feel, prescient and important for this moment that we're in right now. Which we're going to get to as part of our discussion. So let me start by introducing the 3 producers who are here with us today. First of all, we have Pam Oas Williams, who is a Golden Globe and Emmy nominated producer who produced Lee Daniels' The Butler in 2013, and in 2015 joined Lee Daniels Entertainment as president and producing partner to Lee. And Pam was also part of the team that launched the groundbreaking initiative Stand Up to Cancer in 2007. Welcome, Pam.
Thank you. Hi, Bruce.
Hi, Pam. Our next producer is Tucker Tooley, who is a film producer and CEO of Tucker Tooley Entertainment. He produced the 2013 summer box office hit Where the Millers, executive produced the amazing David O. Russell's The Fighter, and other notable credits include Dear John, starring Channing Tatum and Amanda Seyfried, Nicholas Sparks' Safe Haven, and Steven Soderbergh's Haywire. Welcome, Tucker.
Thank you.
You are welcome. And last but certainly not least is our director of tonight's gorgeous film, and also one of the producers. Lee Daniels is an Academy Award nominated filmmaker and television creator. His films include Monsters Ball, Precious, The Paperboy, and Lee Daniels' The Butler. And he has created for television, Empire, and Star. Welcome, Lee.
Hey, I was gonna call you my nickname, but I realized I was literally gonna. Hello, Bruce Cohen. How are you?
I'm good. I'm really so thrilled to be with you 3 to discuss this incredible film tonight. And so, Lee, let me start with you. I want to just hear a little bit, because I know it's probably the first thing on everyone's minds watching. How did this project come to you, and what were the points where you really resonated with and related to this story about Billie Holiday?
First film that I ever saw, well, it wasn't the first film I ever saw, but the movie that got me excited about filmmaking was Lady Sings the Blues, which was with Diana Ross and Billy D. Williams, and I was 13. And I'd never seen a Black couple in love before. I'd never seen it. And then you got Diana Ross, you got Billy D. Williams, you have Richard Pryor, and you have Harlem, you have the fashion, you got the music, you have the humor of Richard Pryor. It made me want to become a filmmaker. And I wanted people to feel the way I felt when I saw that film. And so, I even remember Diana Ross, my first Academy Awards, watching her lose to Liza Minnelli for Cabaret, and thinking that I didn't think it was right. But anyway, so that sort of drove me to filmmaking. And but then cut to 40 years later, we have Susan Laurie Parks wrote this phenomenal piece that was given to me by who are the
Joe Roth and Jeff Kirschenbaum.
Joe Roth and Kirschenbaum. Yeah, they gave me, and I was blown away by it. I was just blown away by the story. I didn't know that it wasn't the right story. That what I thought to be Lady Sings the Blues, even from her bio or book, that it wasn't the right story. That in fact, it was what Hollywood needed. Lady Sings the Blues. We needed that. Black people needed that. America needed that. We had never seen a Black couple in love, but that wasn't the real story. The story was her being targeted by the government, and how through this, and it's not a biopic. It's a moment in time. Through this script, that's just a moment in time that tells us the story of the government targeting Billie Holiday. And I just thought, what an interesting way of telling this story, and also a little bit about her story too. So that's what attracted me to it. And I'm sorry, Strange Fruit, and that they took her down because of Strange Fruit.
There's I don't know if you've had the chance yet to see, but there's a new documentary, MLK FBI, which is the story of how the United States government targeted Martin Luther King Jr. And the similarities of the stories are really shocking. But yet again, they needed to take a Black person down, and they were willing to do anything to do it. In that case, actually, they went after what they thought were his extramarital affairs. So similar to the drug use, they couldn't get Billy on what actually they were claiming the issue was. So they go for something else. Pam, tell us a little bit, and then Tucker, I want to hear from you as well. How were you brought into the project, and what was the experience like for you to be a part of this film and to see it to the screen?
Yeah, as you mentioned, Lee and I first started working together on The Butler, which we made in honor of the amazing Laura Ziskin, who brought us all together. And so, it's been my great pleasure to be working with Lee for the last 10 years on various TV projects and film projects. And we had a number of things going. And as he mentioned, when Joe and Kirschenbaum brought him this script, he's like, this is it. This is what we're doing next. And, and I really appreciated all of the elements that drew him to this, movie, this script that Susan Laurie Parks, wrote so beautifully. But for me, the ability to tell this part of Billy's story, this fierce female warrior who at 23 started singing Strange Fruit and just refused to have her voice not heard, even when, her record labels were afraid to put the music out, she wasn't. And so to be able to tell this very complicated story about a complex female warrior, I was like, yes, how soon? Let's run as fast as we can. I think we were all hoping that with the huge success of The Butler, that this would be smooth sailing, and that all of Hollywood would, of course, want to tell this story because it was so, like, as you said, so important to what was happening right now. But that didn't ultimately happen. And ultimately, Tucker joined the band around that time. So a good segue to Tucker.
Thank you. Thanks. Yeah, well, I felt really, really lucky that that Pam and Lee sent me the script, because when I read it, I'm obsessed with true stories. And as Lee said, and I think you hinted at, Bruce, finding out a completely new angle on something that you thought you understood, and then on top of it, having that actual true story be the real story, as Lee said, and be so prescient and important and moving, and having the ability to sort of bring someone whose personality you've seen in movies, but all the other aspects of who she was to life. And knowing that I got to work with Lee and Pam Lee and I had a previous, collaboration on Shadowboxer, his first movie, which was fantastic and and a lot of fun. And look,
Bruce, did you ever see that movie?
Oh yes. I knew you even back then, my love.
Wow.
I just knew that this was the material, the exact story that Lee could tell like no one else could tell, and bring to life a character that no one else could bring to life with the specificity that he has, and making her a real person, and feeling the world around her and the time around her and the importance of it. And so I was, I count my lucky stars that Pam and Lee sent me the script, and I was ecstatic to be a part of it.
You're on mute.
You're a good segue to my next question to Lee, because you were talking about a real person at the center of the story. And I think this movie, it lives, it breathes, it pulses, it radiates out from this phenomenal, transformative performance by Andra Day. And it was super exciting for me personally, because I've been a huge fan of Andra's, and I know her through activism. She has done she's an amazing activist in her own right. And our activist group has done a lot of work with her. She's performed for us at a variety of different rallies and events, both online and before that in the real world. So when I heard that she was going to get to be Billie, I just was so happy for her, and also just had this really core sense from the beginning that you, Lee, had made an unbelievably brilliant choice. Tell me about, how she came on your radar, how it came to be that she was the one who actually got to portray Billie, and then to continuing on, I want to hear a little bit about the two of your technique, how she prepared, how the two of you prepared for her to basically transform into Billie Holiday.
I was terrified. I'm going to take these glasses off because I'm going to assume that I'd rather not see you. I'm getting blinded by the light. I was terrified to cast her. I had two actresses that I felt were strong and that could do it. And I had been told by so many people, you have to see Andra Day. And I knew she had the voice. I knew she had the voice. But I just like, she's in every scene. This character is in every scene of the film practically. And it just was frightening for me. And I met with her at Soho House, and I could see that she didn't want to do the film. She was questioning whether she could do the film. And she really wanted to do, I see what you mean by an activist, because she certainly is that. She wanted to do Billie justice. And that was more important. That was as important to her as it was to me. And I just felt her soul. I felt her soul. And I suggested that she go to an acting coach, a friend of mine, and a friend of mine, the vocal coach. And she did. Her acting coach gave me this, put the phone and videotaped her getting into character. And as she was getting into character, I saw a change. I saw Billie. I saw the spirit of Billie. She didn't go through the audition yet, but I saw Billie Holiday, and I was blown away. And her vocal coach did the same thing, sent me the voice. And I sort of hired her before, because I knew she could sing the song. So I hired her prior to, when she came in and she auditioned, I gave her the role on the spot. It's pretty extraordinary. I've never experienced that before.
And talk a little bit more about pre-production with her and what the work was to get ready to do all of the things she had to do as Billie.
Well, I think that the timing was on our side. I forget the production company, Pam or Tucker will have to chime in. we shopped the script everywhere in Hollywood, and everybody sort of, well, we had a couple of buyers, but the buyers really they wanted to give me $10 to make the movie. And I think the good part about where we are right now with Black cinema, and I've lived it for the last 20 some odd years just doing this, is that thank God Black people are directing and writing their own stories, and our own stories. And we are not being directed by, for the most part, or written by white people. So that's a great thing. But I don't think that the studios understand that you can't just make these kind of movies for $10. And so that in itself is sort of a curse, because they think that we don't sell overseas, or whatever that means. And I thought that after Butler and after Empire, you would think that it would have been easier for me, and it wouldn't have been like, what we did with Monsters Ball or Precious. And I just didn't think that it was going to be what it was, but it was. And that was great, because we had a financier, one of our producers, Jordan Fudge, who happens to be a Black man who really understood my vision, who financed the movie. So he just said, Lee, let's do it. Let's get your vision across. And that was a blessing. I think that was a blessing and it's a statement about where we are right now in Hollywood. So did that answer your question though? I think I think I sort of scattered all over the place.
That actually answered my next question, which I want to talk a little bit more to Pam and Tucker about. But before I do, I just want to hear a little bit more about how you and Andra prepared her.
Well, because we could not get this movie financed, we had a year. I wasn't going to not give it up, give it up on it. And that meant we had a longer amount of time we thought we were going to, what was the name of the studio, Pam, that we were going to? Participant. Yeah. And, but the budget wasn't participant didn't want to pay that money for the film. And so I needed to get the film done for the budget for the movie that you saw. And I certainly wasn't making any money on it. All my money pretty much went to on the screen. And so, and Pam and Tucker and the actors. It was important that it was great that we had that time, that little bit of time that was off. We didn't like a year for her to really jump into character, for her to really delve into, she continued to study. She continued to take vocal classes. This woman is a born-again Christian. She has never acted a day before in her life. She never smoked weed. She never smoked cigarettes. She didn't drink. She's celibate. And then Big Daddy came along.
Big Daddy and Billie Holiday.
And yeah, she committed herself. So we had a year of commitment, of her really learning who Billie was, and learning how to act with her acting coach, Tasha Smith, and me just continually feeding her what it was that I wanted to see, and studying Billie Holiday.
Going to come back to Billie and Andra, because I want to talk a bunch about the music and the musical performances, which are also at the heart and soul of the center of the film, I felt. But first, Pam, I'd love to just hear your perspective a little bit more about the struggle and the process of trying to get the movie financed and made, and vis-a-vis this renaissance of diversity and inclusion that we're hopefully in Hollywood, and what your experience was of that journey.
Yeah, I mean, again, like I said, we all thought with the huge success of The Butler that getting these movies that, are important, are Black stories, are, yes, period, yes, about our history, but are really well received worldwide. Like no one but Lee Daniels, could prove that these things can be a success. And so to have such high hopes that so much had paved the way for us to only get the rejection. Again, as Lee said, there was a huge interest in this movie, but for $10, because the models, said this won't work overseas, or this is a, smaller domestic play. And so to almost 7-8 years later, to go through the same exact process was hugely frustrating. But again, Lee does not take no for an answer. And so I'm not sure anybody but him would be as undaunted at that moment to say, okay, I can do this. Let me start making calls. And we had been through it on The Butler. And as you remember, Bruce, The Butler, I think, had 26 different investors in it, and we did anything that it took to get that movie made. And it was like, again? But as Lee said, we had one hugely bold and passionate investor in Jordan Fudge, who, when Lee called me and said, Jordan's doing it, the whole thing, I was like, the whole thing? Are you, and yeah, the whole thing. And so that was obviously a huge breaking point for us to know that we could make the movie. And as Lee said, the things happened at the right time. Andra was able to become Billie Holiday. And I just have to say for a quick second about her transformation. We were maybe a few days into shooting, and I mentioned to Andra's assistant how much I loved Andra, right? And she's like, oh, you haven't met Andra. That's Billie. Like, her assistant hadn't seen Andra for 6 months or more because she had gone so deep into it. And I was like, okay, well, I love this version and I can't wait to meet Andra. But that's a little bit about her dedication.
So, and Tucker, it's listening to Pam and how tough it was. It also struck me, the irony of the concern about whether the movie will travel in light of COVID, where now, the whole way that people see things have really changed. Could you just talk a little bit about what the distribution plan is for the film in this new era that we're living in?
Yeah, hey, Bruce, sure. I want to tell you about me and Tucker. So we go back in a way that, he knows me so well, it's scary. And I knew that this was going to be a crazy, I didn't know what we were walking into with this movie. So he has done so many movies that I understood. I felt that he would be a great addition. And we just finished working on a film, Concrete Cowboy, in Philadelphia with Idris Elba, and both producing it. So I figured that he had to come in to have my back on this. So I'm really happy he did. Thanks, Tucker.
Well, thank you. It's a good question, Bruce, and the world literally changed during the course of this movie in so many ways. We started out with quasi-normal, world of distribution, and as we were shooting, that really started to change. Netflix obviously has become so dominant, and distribution was getting harder and harder, and theatrical distribution was getting harder and harder. And then COVID hit, fortunately, right as we finished the film, finished shooting. And it really sort of, shined a light on the fact that theaters were not going to be open for quite a while. And so our initial deal with Paramount was kind of in that window where everybody was thinking things were going to get better sooner. And, we'd all had hopes that theaters would be open by now, and the summer was looking good, and it was in sort of, May and June, and there was optimism, and well, at least optimism vis-a-vis COVID. And then it all changed again. And so I think, look, ending up at Hulu is a great result for the film. They've been incredibly supportive, and it'll be seen by millions and millions and millions of people. And I think it's, as we've all said, and it wasn't planned this way, but the universe has a way of making things this way. So relevant, so timely, and that combined with the fact that we have a distributor in Hulu that will get this thing out to everyone, I think is a magic thing. And you know, would we have all loved to been in a theater sitting it and watching it on the big screen? Absolutely. Lee shot the movie on film. I mean, Pam and I, you know, looked at the.
You remember that conversation? Yeah. Here's the conversation. They were both trying to talk me out of shooting on film. I've shot every movie I have ever made on film, right? And they were both saying, well, Lee, you know, we could shave a couple $100,000, 300, how many thousands of dollars if we had just, if we shot it on digital. And I was like, no, that ain't happening. I'm shooting on film. And then COVID. And we are not in the theater. Yeah. Bruce. You can't make this up. Anyway, sorry, I divert.
You know, although, and this goes to the next topic, which is the musical numbers. And, you know, I think we've all, one of the experiences, you know, of all being trapped in our homes and on our screens, whatever they are at home, there is something awesome though about the experience where you are on your own or with your family. You're so close. For the close-ups, she's singing right at you. If you're enveloped with the sound in a way that in a theater you're not, you know, there are people coughing, there are people getting up to go to the bathroom, you're hearing sirens if you're in New York City, you know, and so I do think, you know, there is something pure about that. I'm now just trying to rationalize to make you feel better.
Okay. Bruce, but stop. It ain't working.
Okay, so let's talk though.
Yeah. I want to be in a theater. I want to watch my movie that I shot on film to be in a theater.
Yeah.
But you know one thing, it's okay. I think that I finally have embraced it, and I think that what's bumming me. The only thing that's bumming me right now is a lot of people, you know, are watching the film on their computer, or you know, Patti LaBelle told me that she saw the movie on her iPhone. I'm like, what? Are you kidding me? She's like, I mean, you know, so I mean it's sort of devastating.
Yeah, but it sounds good.
It does sound good, for sure.
And Pam, you were talking about how Andra had transformed into Billie, and one of the things I think that's so gorgeous about the film are how tremendously the musical numbers deliver. I mean, it's really a concert film. If what you're coming for is a Billie Holiday concert film, you're not disappointed, because you see, you know, such a range and depth of numbers performed, beautifully done. And my first, Lee, let me start with you, because I'm curious. I mean, to me, I would bet that voice was a real key into the character for Andra, and that, you know, once she was able to, being her vocal chops are, I would put them up with anyone. I mean, the notes that can come out of that woman's vocals are just spectacular. I don't know if you saw her the Rise Up she did on Wednesday, and she had actually done a different version on one of the inauguration events on Monday. Just, oh my God. So I would imagine for her that when she found Billie, you know, and she knew, like, oh, like I sound like Billie, which very few, you know, it's not like any great singer can just sing like Billie Holiday. That may have been a key that may have helped her find the character even more once she knew what it felt like to sing like Billie Holiday.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. I mean, I had to go back to her to tell her again, we're not doing a straight biopic. You know, that this was just I want you to embody Billie, but I don't want you to imitate her. And you do your take on who you think this spirit is. And we prayed a lot. And Yeah, she channeled. She channeled.
I actually think that the brilliance of her singing as Billie bought you freedom with the performance, because as an audience member, you're never questioning if it's Billie. You know it's Billie because you're hearing Billie. Tucker and Pam, and Lee too, from a producing standpoint, clearly a lot of time and energy and prep and portion of the budget must have gone into the musical sequences, which are very complicated to pull off. And you have a lot of them. Can you talk a little bit about, how you produce the music, all the performances?
Go ahead, Pam.
Go ahead, Tucker.
No, I just have to say that Pam is literally the most organized human being I have ever met. And if it were not for her, the music would not have been the way it was in this movie. She is the absolute best. And anyway, go ahead, Pam.
Thank you. Thank you. The music had me petrified. Obviously, Andra and the songs were amazing. Salam Raimi did the orchestration for them. And so we had this great path.
But Salam worked with Amy Winehouse, so that you know. So it has a little kick to it.
Exactly. So we had these amazing re-envisioning of these Billie Holiday songs, and Andra was Billie Holiday. So that was great. But we had to then, put on a musical, and we had to have a 30-piece jazz band come in and perform, but we had to have all the exact, instruments. And not only did they have to be the period instruments, but they had to play them in a period manner. So there were so many layers. And the thing about Lee is he is the most detail-oriented director. And so if one thing is not authentic, forget it. So the stakes were really high to bring all these people together. And I remember, and of course we started with the most ambitious. So we started in Carnegie Hall with the full there. We couldn't start with the 5-piece and work our way. We started with 30.
Was that the first one?
That was the first one. And Lee, I think you remember at 6 a.m., we had 30 French Canadian musicians, didn't all speak English, come together in a rehearsal room for the first time. We're about to go on set. And they had to look like they had been a jazz band for years, right? And so I remember the first rehearsal, and I'm standing somewhat close to Lee, scared, oh no. And so Lee, of course, though, gets up there and he's like, okay, guys, this is how I want you to move. And he literally choreographed all the different sections of the orchestra. And he went to set and I stayed and was like, okay, we're rehearsing and rehearsing and rehearsing until it's perfect. So the trying to get everything right was a huge priority. But we had the Jazz Foundation of America working with us, helping to authenticate everything we did. We had a wonderful jazz professor, Charles Ellison, in Montreal with us on set. And so it was a definitely team sport to pull off the music.
And we had, I didn't go to film school, Bruce, and so I couldn't afford film school. I didn't go to film school. I rely heavily on, I don't remember any, by the way, what you said, Pam. I just remember the experience. I rely heavily on my team. I wish I could say that I did it by myself, but I have an incredible team around me. I mean, these two producers are just they made it so easy for me. And I have this relationship with Andrew Dunn, who's done, Butler, and he did Precious, and he did Empire for me. And we have a shorthand. He's genius. And Dan Dorrance, who's a production designer that's out of control. We just lost Charles Gregory, who was brilliant, who did all the wigs and hair for Andra. I mean, the man, all the guys in that movie and Billie had wigs. You cannot tell. He's just these people executed under Pam and Tucker and Jordan's sort of supervision, the impossible, because I'm not easy.
You mentioned some of the other cast. I also just wanted to take a moment to celebrate the extraordinary ensemble between Travante and Rob and so many others. Do you want to talk a little bit about how that all came together?
Yeah, it was important to me not to put a bunch of movie stars. I'd done that already with The Butler, so I didn't want to do it again with Billie. I really wanted Billie's story to be the priority. That we really didn't, we weren't distracted by names, and I felt like, you know, I'd done that already with Butler. And so Rob Morgan, who is extraordinary as her last husband, Louis McKay, is just amazing. I'm drawing a blank here. Pam, help me with some of the actors.
Eric LeRae.
Eric LeRae, who I love. Eric LeRae was
Monroe. He's our Monroe.
He's Monroe. All of these actors. Tone Bell, who plays John Levy. He's a comedian. I didn't know any of these guys. And I just thought that we're in this new place of Black cinema where all these great actors are coming up from, I don't know, Divine Joy, who plays Roz, Miss Freddie, who I just think is unbelievably played by Miss Lawrence. I got really blessed with the actors. They delivered. Yeah, they delivered.
And that was for Lee to be able to just find the actors who spoke to him. It was such a terrific process. I have to say that to be freed from stunt casting and just really bring this group together.
Yeah,
it's exciting to see.
And you know, and you don't have the studio breathing down your throat saying, "We gotta here's $10 million. I want a star."
Yeah.
You know,
Don't get me started.
Go get me a star. It's just great to have a bunch of actors that are hungry to deliver and honor Billie Holiday and her story, and to honor her legacy, and just to try to please me. That was really great. That everybody just wanted to make me happy, and I think it shows on screen.
Well, Pam, you just said actors who spoke to Lee, and then Lee, you're talking about honoring Billie's legacy. I think that this film is really speaking to us right now. And we're pretty much at the end of our time, believe it or not. It flew by. I could talk to the three of you about this film for another 2 hours, but we won't. So I want to just close on that sort of final discussion of, you know, in light of what we've been through in this country for the last 4 years, and now this new dawn that is here, but with the struggle, the intense struggle that this country has gone through with racial inequality, and obviously has a long road ahead of us. You know, how do you, starting with you, Lee, how do you feel this movie, how would you like this movie to fit into the conversation about race that's happening right now? And what do you want people to get from this film?
You know, I keep saying that when we did The Butler, it was about hope, because with Obama, you know, you got that last shot of Forrest Whitaker walking down the red carpet to see Obama, and it was just, you know, you got the warm fuzzies inside. This, you know, when the unmentionable came into the office of president, you could smell racism. It's an aerosol. It was wrong. And I think that we didn't do this movie knowing that that George Floyd was happening. It wasn't written during that time. It was just SLP knew what she was doing. She could feel what was happening in the world, and it was some dark shit coming. It was some dark shit, you couldn't. People say, is the movie timely? Yeah, it's timely. It was timely 20 years ago. It was timely when Billie did it 40, 50 years ago. It's timely now, and it's going to be timely 20 years from now based on what we just seen. It's a mess. It's a mess. America is a mess. And I think that this is, Pam says it well. She says that it's a call, what'd you say? A calling to arms? It's a call to arms. This movie is a call to arms. I just did it because I felt like, I felt that this was in the air. Like all, you know, America's air is dirty right now. And I think Billie speaks to that. I think that people, when you think of civil rights leaders, you know, you don't think of Billie Holiday. And I think that there are so many other Billie Holidays out there. And I think that she was the mother of civil rights before Martin Luther King, before Malcolm X, before Gandhi, before any of them. She kicked it off with Strange Fruit. She had the audacity to sing this song, even when the government told her not to. And I think that, I don't know back then that I would have those. And I think that that's a lesson for me to learn, and for everybody else here to learn, that we all have to stand up for what is really right. And I think that, yeah, that's the beauty of the story.
That's the United States versus Billie Holiday. Lee, Tucker, Pam, thank you so much for the film and for being here and for having this conversation.
We love you, Bruce. Thank you for moderating.
Love you guys. Thank you.
Okay.